Hi, and welcome to another episode of Unearth. This is the first of its kind, a live episode, and I must admit that I'm feeling very nervous because there is no space for cuts. But I will be joined today by Angela, who is all the way in Norway. So as we wait for her to come through, we can just, give it a few minutes. She'll be coming through very soon. I'm really excited about this. I'm really excited to see what this is going to turn out to be like, because this is the first time we're doing a live video, and it's always a great opportunity to talk to people and get to know about their story. And as you know, at Unearth, we seek to understand the person below the person. So yeah, hi Angela.
Hey, beautiful. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am excellent. So good.
I'm a bit nervous. I don't know how you're feeling.
I'm actually a bit nervous because this is my first time ever doing an Instagram live. I've always been
Yeah.
that person to join lives, but I've never
Mhm.
been live. So a bit nervous. Would you like to maybe breathe through it a bit?
Yeah, I think that would really help. I would
Awesome.
really appreciate
And
that.
I love your setup at the back. You have your candles and everything. What
Thank
do you have there?
you. Sorry?
What candles do you have back there?
I have no idea. Actually, I just put these up today. This one is lavender
Mm-hmm.
and the other one is citrus orange.
Oh, that is so comfortable. So
Yeah.
nice. Alrighty, so are you in a comfortable seated position? And everybody can
Yes.
actually join in if you
Mhm.
would like, just for a little meditation. I'm getting all cozy as well. Alrighty. So exactly where you are,
Mhm.
and just gently breathing in through the nose and exhaling through the mouth. In through the nose deeply and exhaling through the mouth. Closing your eyes, breathing in through the nose and exhaling through your nose, lowering your shoulders, allowing your jaw to relax, allowing your cheeks to relax, your forehead, and staying with a gentle breath. Allowing yourself to draw into the safety of who you are, and allowing yourself to simply drift into the comfort of inner peace. You are loved, you are appreciated, you are protected. Everything that you desire is already yours. Releasing the tension in your jaw, and with each breath, simply feeling a deeper sense of connection to your inner peace. Allowing those nerves to simply melt away, and allowing simply a conversation between me and you. Taking in 3 more deep inhales and exhales, placing your right hand onto your heart, your left hand above the right, and feeling your chest rise and expand. You are loved, you are appreciated, You are supported. Everything that you desire is already yours. And when you're ready, simply opening up your eyes, thanking your body, and allowing yourself to be.
Thank you so much for that. I think I
Thank you
feel
so
a
much.
bit more relaxed. I'm still a bit nervous, but I think as we go along, it'll get better.
Mhm.
All right. All right. Welcome to Unearth, Angela. As you would already know, this is a show for women by women. And at this place, we have conversations like the one that we are just about to have. And there is no specific strict way of having the conversation because I think I really value the flow that each person is able to bring to the conversation. And so before we start, we have a tradition, and I did let you know that, we ask you to bring one thing that you feel represents your womanhood. And yeah, so what have you brought for us today?
Um, I really thought hard about this because I think that over time, when you are maturing, when you're growing, there's always things that are changing. As your personality expands, as your character matures, you're able to tap into different sides of your own femininity, your own sensuality, and really grow into what womanhood is. For me and where I am in this moment in my life, this is what represents or what means the most to me right now, which is a sculpture.
Mm.
And it is a sculpture that I got in Zimbabwe, and it was by an artist named Gift. He said that he made this during the first half when coronavirus had just hit, and it was stone that came from Mashingo, and his whole representation of it was that it's two symbols of two people that are growing with strength one with one another, and that I
Mm.
never let go of. And for me, where I am right now in my stage, it has been growing and building in this new marriage and ensuring that it is strong and has that strength of a stone where nothing can penetrate into it, but creating that strong foundation of who I am as a woman and who my husband is. And how am I still able to keep my femininity, grow into my womanhood, and still be true to myself in my authenticity?
Mm. Wow, that's really deep. And as you were speaking, I was imagining that you could even take that same idea, the same sculpture, and look at it as a person who's growing through themselves, where you're not letting go of, say, the child that you were and the person that you were in the past. You're growing as you grow up and you move on to the next part of your life. You are able to still connect with wherever you've come from, and so I think it's a very powerful, sculpture that you've
It's so
shown us
true.
today. Yeah.
Because ultimately it is, you have to stay true to yourself, and
Mm,
staying true to yourself means it's past, present, and also your future. You have to
absolutely.
always remember who you come from, but you have to honor that inner child that is there, that
Mm,
is forever present. When
mm,
we are not enlightened or we are not connected to that inner child, we tend to let things go easily, or we have built up resentment, or we feel like we have to shudder ourselves in. But when we allow that inner child to expand, we see that our creativity takes us within each stage of our womanhood as we
mm,
mature.
mm, absolutely. And before we got connected, and I was actually inviting you to this platform, you mentioned something that I found very interesting. You said to me that you'd be happy to sit and have this conversation with me, but the only thing that you wanted to know was, would you be able to make sure it's something that's meaningful? That was like
Mm.
the I don't know, the most important thing for you was for this conversation to be meaningful. And when I read that, I was wondering, why is that so important to you? Why is it so important that whatever you participate in is something that's meaningful?
Simply because the world is filled with so much noise.
Mm,
There's so much noise that's around us. We have the TV, we have Instagram, we have Twitter, we have Facebook, we have opinions of other people. But for me, I found a lot of solace and a lot of grounding in my inner circle, in my relationships, and seeing what is real.
Mm,
Because when you meditate, when you do yoga, when you are connected to yourself, you tend to set a lot of boundaries. And those boundaries come about when you are even selecting the things that you would participate in. And I went through your page, I scoured, and I was like, oh, she's such a beautiful person. And I loved your energy, and I love who you are and what you stand for. And it shows, your energy shines through, my love. And it's just such an honor for me to be here. And I'm just so thankful that you thought about me.
thank you for that. It's yeah, thank you so much for that affirmation. I think that's something that, I need to hear often. And my love language is words of affirmation. So,
Ooh,
thanks for the love.
beautiful. What are
Yeah.
your other what are your other love languages?
So the top one I'd say is words of affirmation, and then the second being acts of service. And maybe
Mm.
third will be physical contact, and then quality time, and then last is gifts. What are yours?
When I did the test, it was acts of service first,
Mm,
second, words of affirmation, third, gifts, and so on and so forth. But acts of service shows me that somebody has thought through of ways to help in your growth.
mm,
And there's nothing more romantic or enlightening, and romantic not even with a partner, but even in your own relationships or your friendships, that somebody would do something for you, meaning that they have taken the time to understand who you are and that
mm,
they're willing to put themselves forward for you. And
mm,
especially words of affirmation, because the tongue is such a powerful thing. It's such a powerful tool. And we hear this time and time again, the way that we use our words. And it's always been important to me to uplift people.
mm,
Even in my yoga classes, there came a time when I started just speaking words of affirmations during my whole class. And my students will tell you that they come out of a class and almost the next day, my words are still ringing in their heads, because it's those words that carry you through. There's an amazing book that I love. It's by John O'Donoghue, and it's called Anamkara. And he
mm,
says that in the very beginning, there was sound or vibration. And this is what we hear in all the ancient texts. Well, if that first spark of divinity was sound, then what do we think our words are doing? What are the vibrations that we are setting out? And even Khalil Gibran says that the words that we speak become the house that you live in. And
mm.
would you want to live in that house?
Yeah, I think I've also, in my journey as I go on and I grow, I've tried as much as possible to, be very intentional with the things that I speak into my own life and into the lives of others, because when I look back, I realize that a lot of hurt that I've experienced myself has come from words. And, seeing the power that words have to either build or break you down, makes me think that it's definitely one of the most important things as we walk through life, and, how we express ourselves, how we even react in like moments of like high emotions, like when you're angry and you have like those words at the tip of your tongue, what you do with that energy, it's very, very, very important. So yeah, thank you so
How
much
have
for
you
sharing
moved
that.
through that?
um
Whenever with words that people have spoken to you, how do you move through that? Have you healed from any of the hurt?
yeah, I think I'd say I started my intentional healing journey maybe a year or two ago. And it was very difficult because I think I'd carried a lot of resentment from my formative years, and a lot of things were said, a lot of things that I looked at and I was like, how could these people say this to me? But then when I actually sat down and I tried to like separate myself from the experience and like try to look at it from the outside and look at what was really happening, I found that a lot of things that were said had very little to do with me. And, you know, learning to realize that maybe the people who raised me were also carrying their own pains, and, they were going through their own journeys, and they had not learned how to kind of find a healthy way to express, some heavy emotions. And then in the end, as a child, you can end up being like a punching bag. You know, they come maybe from work or, you know, from other things that happen in their lives, and they're just frustrated, you know. And so for me, learning and realizing that it's not always really like I've done something wrong. It's more of a reflection of, you know, what the other person is going through makes it easier to kind of let go. Although I'd say that it's not always that, you know, when someone says something, you can just forget it and be like, oh, it's not about me, it's about them, you know. But it makes it easier just, you know, knowing that people are experiencing their lives differently, and then you come and, you know, you interact with them, and sometimes, you know, they're dropping some, you know, pains and bits and pieces that they've picked up on their journey, and sometimes, you know, they drop it on you, and, you know, you shouldn't like wear that as like your coat, you know, like that's on there,
Mm-hmm.
you know, just
Yeah.
let it go, let it flow, let it pass. Yeah,
And not
that's
allowing it
me.
to have an address inside your body,
Mm,
not allowing it to take up that room in your body so
mm,
that it doesn't fester, because ultimately all of your emotions can actually manifest themselves as dis-ease within the
mm,
body, as illness. So one day you're walking around and you're like, oh, why are my shoulders so sore? Well, you've been carrying the whole world up on your shoulders, my love. If your
mm,
chest is hurting, how much are you trying to shudder up? How much are you trying to protect of yourself? When your belly is hurting, especially with women, your womb, how much are you carrying inside of there? How much self-love are you actually giving out into the world, but also off into yourself, because you have to keep that cup full. So I love what you said about not wearing that cloak where, you know, you can take somebody's pain, you can take somebody's words and you wear them. And the next
mm,
thing you see, like you also, it comes out in your language. You start addressing yourself as this. Somebody else called you stupid. Next minute, you're, oh yeah, I'm kind of stupid. And you lower your shoulders. And it's
mm,
just not true. What is the truth? The truth is that you are a being of love. You're a being of life. You're a being of happiness, that you deserve joy. And ultimately, we're all trying. We can do things, and we are just on this journey to discovering what that truth is. And it's about living in that truth.
mm. Absolutely. This feels like, I don't know, like it felt like more as a session for me than it is like for the audience. I feel like we're just having a girl to girl phone call.
And that's how it's supposed to be. I love that. And
Yeah,
that is what is
yeah,
meaningful. This is meaningful.
absolutely. All right. So I guess I would go into the next part. I don't know if I should ask you this question. Like, who is Tendai? I think.
Girl, I don't even know who Tendai is. So much has just happened.
Mm,
But who I am, Aurea Mountain says this. She has a beautiful poem called The Invitation. And
mm,
she talks about saying that I do not care which, I do not care what university you went to. I don't care who your parents are. I don't care which moons are crossing your sun. I don't care about your constellations. What I want to know is, are you able to pick yourself up after a day of grieving and do what needs to be done for the kids? What sustains you from the inside out when everything else is falling away? Are
mm,
you able to scream out into the universe, yes, and scream for joy? Hui Tindai is a person that is so filled with joy and hunger and wants the best for her life and wants to live her life to the highest standard as to what is my truest belief. I
mm,
am not just one thing. I'm a multifaceted human being that wants to leave her mark of greatness, but most importantly, feel fulfilled in everything
mm.
that I do.
Wow. I like the mention of being multifaceted, because I think, you know, there's a lot of times where we tend to define ourselves based on like one specific part of our lives. Like you'd say, I'm a teacher and that's it. Like I'm a doctor and that's it. And even as we interact with people, sometimes we fail to realize that maybe you're in the classroom and you're interacting with your teacher, but this teacher that you have is a sister, they're a mother, they're, you know, a wife, they're a friend, they're, you know, so many other things. And, you know, as they show up as a teacher in that space, they're not really leaving those things behind. They still, you know, come as a full package. And I love that you've acknowledged that for yourself, that, you know, you're not just this one thing, but you exist as so much more. And, you know, aligning it to what you feel your purpose is, I think is, you know, the most important thing. And seeing that you just live that purpose in whatever, you know, space you're in, you know. So yeah, I really love that
Because you
description
have to.
of yourself.
You have to. You have to just live in all of these spaces and take up space. You have to take up space fully.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So I'm going to go to the next question. So you've
Alrighty.
already mentioned that you do
I'm even
yoga.
scared that there's like a wild card over here. I'm like ready to like have a wild card.
No,
I'm like,
no, I promise that it's not going to go too far from, you know, what we already have spoken about. So yeah, into your yoga. You already mentioned that you do yoga classes, and so I was wondering, how did you get into that journey, and how has it been, you know, so far from the time that you started to even becoming a yoga instructor, yoga teacher, and to where you are right now?
it's been long. I began yoga in 2003 when my mother slipped discs in her C7 and she was told that she was never going to walk again.
Mm,
For me, and seeing my mom in that space, it broke my heart. It felt like I had my pillar of strength just fall down to the ground, and it felt like I didn't have any foundation to stand on. It also showed me that human beings can break and that we are allowed to be vulnerable. And up until that point, I had never seen my pillar of strength be this vulnerable to actually need our help. Over time, she learned how to walk with crutches, and then she went from a wheelchair to crutches and then to being able to walk. It was hilarious because she used to walk over to the fridge and we all were getting excited, like, Mom's walking, realizing that, oh, she's trying to get ice cream from the fridge. So that was like her goal, like go from the bed to the fridge to get ice cream. And now that she is now in physiotherapy, and then her neurologist suggested yoga as a form of rehabilitation. When she was going for her yoga sessions, I decided that I would love to join her. And during the sessions, I realized that I was the one getting the yoga session. I realized that yoga is not just a physical activity, but it works on your mind, it works on your emotions. Because when your body can break, but your heart can also break, and that also needs healing. So yoga taught me how to heal parts of the body that people couldn't see were hurt.
mm,
I then went to Australia for university. I studied law and global and international studies, and then went on to travel a bit to Italy, Norway, and Thailand. During this time, the Caribbean, during this time, I was still practicing yoga. It seemed like the only thing that I was doing. When I came back to Zimbabwe, there was a moment where I thought I would like to take this yoga thing further. I didn't think to myself, I'm going to become a yoga teacher. I was very afraid of it because I knew that if I wanted to become a yoga teacher, I would have to show my heart again. So I went to Bali to go do my yoga teacher training, and it was 6 weeks of intense training. Came back to Zim and I hit the ground running. I immediately just organized some free classes for people and ended up teaching at the yoga room at Queen of Hearts, as well as diplomatic agencies, Emerald Hill Children's Home. Did that for 2.5 years. And now I live in Norway. I live in Trondheim, where I am going to now be a teacher, teaching students how to become teachers. So I'm now teaching, on training programs.
mm. Well,
It sounds
you know,
crazy to me even saying that. I'm
yeah,
like, wow, Ted, you're doing this?
I can
So
imagine.
yes.
And like I think like watching I started doing yoga last year around this time. And you know, every time I'm like doing yoga and I'm listening to the instructor, I'm always wondering like, do they have it figured out? Like, do they know what's gonna come next?
Yes.
And you know, do you have like a list of things, or do they like try to figure it out as it goes?
No, you don't do that. You have your session planned out. You know
Mm,
how you'd like the body to feel during the session. So for me, when I am testing out a class, I will do the class first because I want to
okay.
know how my students will feel afterwards. I set the music, I set the tone, even with the the smells that are inside the room. I did a course in aromatherapy because I love to sway those senses within the body, in your subtle body anatomy. I love to see it as a canvas. I use this description that whenever I'm teaching a class, it feels like I'm conducting an orchestra, because you're taking the body through a journey, and you're taking this body through a journey for the mind, the body, and the soul. So your spirit has to come out feeling elated. And this comes into yogic philosophy, where you're working from the densest part of your body, which is your manomaya kosha, no, your anamaya kosha, which is the densest part, going into your manomaya kosha, all the way down to the atman, which is your truest self.
Wow. And you have, like, how long did it take you to learn like all these terms and actually get to understand yoga beyond, just the aesthetic?
I'm a complete yoga nerd. So on some nights when I couldn't fall asleep, I would be reading Carl Jung's lecture notes from the 1940s or 1930s. I read a lot of articles about yogic theory, as well as the science behind it. Currently, I'm reading a research paper about yoga and the neuroscience behind it. And so for me, it is just constant learning, refinement of this skill and trying to master it. The history of yoga fascinates me. The evolution of yoga fascinates me. I can't believe that there's this one activity that is so layered that can promise you fulfillment, and that it can be adapted to your life. And everybody has to feel that. If you've gone through a yoga class and you've had a good teacher, you know what that feeling of safety feels like in your body, where you are laying there and it's silent. That idea that the world is so filled with noise, sometimes it melts away, because in those moments it's just you. And that's what I love. So just a complete yoga nerd, that I'm a constant student.
Wow. I think that's very important, to still be open to learning and not, getting to a point where you're like, I've arrived, and, just learning
Do
doesn't
you ever
stop.
fully arrive at life? Like in like success? No, you really don't.
Yeah, yeah. And does your partner, your husband, does he do yoga?
He has come to one of my yoga classes. So to put the record straight, no, he does not do yoga. He only does my yoga classes.
Okay. Have you ever tried to like drag him into it, or did you just like leave it as just a Tendai thing?
Definitely just a Tendai thing, but he is open to coming to
Mm-hmm.
only my classes, which I'm happy about. So
Mm-hmm.
whenever I'm teaching, he's there. But for him, he's an engineer. He he's an engineer and does his thing. I'm not ever trying to force things onto my husband. He does him,
Yeah,
I do me. He's
yeah.
actually at the gym at the moment. He was like, "Hey, Jonah, come." I was like, "Nah, gonna do an Instagram live."
All right. I want to circle back to something that you've talked about. You mentioned how your mom had, like she lost mobility. And, it sounds like you were present for her in that time as a support system, along with, other people that would be part of your family. And so my question now is, who supports you? Like, who are the people that you can call on whenever you need, a shoulder to cry on or someone to celebrate with? Who is your support system?
I have an inner circle, and an inner circle of people that have been constant in my life, that I keep very dear to me. And it is my husband, my brother, my sister, my parents, my auntie, and my friends. I have a core group of friends that I know are always there and that I always rely on. And we have such a close knit relationship, and a relationship that I trust, that I will always cherish, and that I'm always with them. So even if I'm there for other people a lot, those people also show up for me fully, because it was always supposed to be reciprocated. And I value relationships a lot. I value the way that people handle their relationships. I was listening to Lovey's podcast the other day, Lovey and Yvonne, and Jesus and Jollof, and they had said, I don't trust somebody who hasn't kept a friend for more than 20 years. Where it is that look at people's track records and have a close group of friends that you can rely on. I know that my heart is safe with the people that I surround myself by.
Wow, that's really. I think that's also something that I've grown to value, and just realizing that you can't go at it alone, and you don't have to. There's, I think, in this day and age, there's a lot of, I don't know what to say, like this cancel culture type of, I can do everything by myself. I don't need anyone. And, we see this quite a lot on the internet, and I don't know, it makes me sad. It makes me sad when I see people like that, because it really sounds like it's coming from a place of hurt, and, a place of not realizing that, human beings are built for community. That's something that we can't run away from. We can pretend all we want, but community it's almost in our DNA. Like our survival of our ancestors was dependent on them being a part of a community, and we can't just wake up today and think, okay, because we're in the 21st century, we can, throw that all away, in as much as we might
Never.
have like technology and everything else, but we still definitely need each other. Yeah.
We always will need each other. And that's actually one of the pillars of yogic philosophy, which is your sangha, which is your community. And it talks about having your heart so embedded in other people so that you are able to grow, not just as yourself, but as a community. We can't have cancel culture because it devalues the relationships and it devalues the energy that we put in. We can't be running around not trusting the people that are around us. Yes, we can have boundaries, but we have to allow people to help us. You have to have people around you that you can talk to about your sad days, about the things that are ailing you, because these are the people that have your back and watch your blind spots for you. My brother and I always speak about that who is watching your blind spots, and your inner circle is supposed to watch your blind spots. Do you have a close group of people that have your heart safe and that you can talk to?
Yeah.
For the good and the bad.
Yeah. First of all, like I've grown up around women. So I've been raised by my mom and aunts, and it's been like a village. And because like most of them were single moms, and it's obviously like quite hectic. You have work, you're trying to figure out how to, handle, having children and having your own life. And I've seen how me being able to grow up and be the person that I am today, I owe it to them being able to stick together. And because of that, my cousins and I also have that thing where we kind of stick together because we watched how our moms raised us, as a village. And so that's like
Yes.
one thing that, I hold on to. So my cousins, and then I have a very strong group of girlfriends that I've had since 2010. Yeah, I must have been, yeah, like 10 years ago. So that was the beginning of high school, and we kind of got together, and I don't know how we made it out, but we did, because a lot of people in high school had drama and we didn't. I think it's
No.
grace. It's here we are 10 years later, and we still friends. Like we didn't have drama, we just stuck together, and we've been support systems for each other. And along the way, someone has lost a family member, and we've been there for that person. We've watched each other go in and out of relationships, and, being a support system for each other in that. And just like, for me, my support system is women. I
Yes.
really value, and I think nothing can replace, that sisterhood. It's so,
Yes.
so, so, so important, because we understand each other on a level that, I don't think anyone else can. And yeah, I'm really grateful for that. I think, watching other people and seeing how, yeah, I'm gonna cry, but
No. And hey, you can cry.
yo,
You're in a safe
yeah,
space.
yeah. I think sisterhood it's very important. And also from some of the people that I've met through doing this Unearth show, I can feel that we kind of gravitated towards each other, and I can feel them slowly, coming into the inner circle, like,
Yes.
yeah. So,
Yes. And that's
I
what you're
mean,
doing. You
mm,
created a community. And this is so important and it's bigger than you think. And I'm so proud of you and I admire the work that you do. Thank you
thank
for
you.
creating this space for women to speak and so that we can have each other and speak to each
Mm,
other and just be there for each other. I love what you said about having like your close group of like your cousins as well. Because I have that with one of my cousins where she's just my person and
mm,
you've grown up with them. You've seen each other through the thick, the thin, but you know that these women have your back.
mm,
You know that you're safe.
mm,
You don't have to explain. It's almost like it's a telepathy thing where you
mm,
can sit with somebody in silence if you're grieving, and that's all that's needed.
mm. That's true. All right. I'm trying to go to a bit of a lighter question. We've gone so deep into this. Oh,
Welcome to my
Tendai.
life.
All right. So one random question: cats or dogs? Pick one.
But both. I can't pick one. Both. I love cats. I love dogs. I actually have a cat that I left in Zimbabwe. His name's
Oh,
Felix. I miss him. But over here, my mother-in-law has just gotten a new husky, and she is so adorable. And she's a puppy, so she's like eating up everything.
mm,
What about
yeah.
you? Cats or dogs?
I I'm not sure. It just depends because we have a cat at home, and I
Hmm.
think it makes sense for the kind of space we're in right now because everyone's kind of like all over the place, like not
Hmm.
really permanently at home. And I think that's something that it's a lifestyle you can live whilst having a cat. But I think like
Yes.
dogs need, more affection, more presence, and they can easily feel lonely. Cats are more like, I'm just doing my own thing. I'm gonna come by because I
Yeah.
want food and I want you to pet me a bit, and I'm out. So I'd say it would depend on the type of lifestyle that I'm living. Right now, I think a cat is good for us. Um,
Hmm.
Eventually, I'd want to have a dog, hopefully when I've like settled down, maybe start a family when I'm not moving anymore. Because right now I'm like, at the point in my life where, I'm studying in a different country. I study in Kenya and I have plans of moving to a different country. And so, having a dog, I don't know, it
Yeah.
just feels a
Not for
bit
now. But the
unfair.
time will come. The time
Yeah,
will come.
yeah.
It's nice that you are in transition,
Mm.
that you're in this journey. Where would you like to go after Kenya?
So I've been looking very closely at Namibia. I don't know why,
Hmm.
but I feel extremely, extremely drawn to it.
I love
So
Namibia.
I imagine
I
myself
love, love,
going
love.
there.
Please go because I will definitely come visit you there. One of my best friends, who was my maid of honor,
Hmm.
she and we went to university together, and we decided one day we're just gonna meet in an African country. She
Hmm.
was in Uganda at the time, and I was in Zim, and we ended up meeting in Namibia with no plan whatsoever. We just arrived at the airport,
Hmm.
and when we saw each other, we are like, let's rent out a car, and we went from Windhoek down to Swakopmund, and we in between that whole process it was so intentional because we wrote down what we wanted in our lives. We ended up skydiving, we ended up going on camels, just like so many just random things, but each moment was so intentional about what we wanted to do.
Yeah,
So please, can you go?
I will.
But wherever you
At
are,
this
I'll just
point,
come visit.
sure, you're always welcome. I've just seen someone ask me here, how are your plants? So I'm going to share that I started a garden at the beginning of the lockdown and, just outside, and it's like a vegetable garden. So Christella's asking how my plants are doing. And so we just harvested the carrots. So all the carrots are out of the ground, and we've just planted maize and butternut and the green pepper that has been struggling for a while. It's finally, coming up now. So yeah, that's my answer to Christella. Do you have any plants?
I most certainly do. I'm about to reach over right now to
Uh-huh.
show you one of my babies. So give me 1 minute,
All right.
not even one, 10 seconds, so that I can show you a couple of these. So I definitely am a plant person, and moving here was something important. So this is my chili.
Mm-hmm.
And over here we have got lovely hanging plants. So all of them are very small right now, but they're babies, but they shall be growing soon. And this little guy right here. So everything is coming up. There's about 8 others over here, but each one is going to grow. And I loved that idea about tending to a garden, because when you are doing that, you're putting your hands into soil. You're seeing something grow. It is a part of you, and that is you nourishing your soul. So it's almost like you're feeding it back to yourself. It's so grounding.
Yeah, definitely. I've spent quite a lot of time like working in the garden, and it's just, I don't know, I could get lost in it. It's so um it's I think what I love the most is like watching the process. When you put a seed into the ground and then you're gonna watch, you know, everything starting to grow, and what happens throughout the process and all the things that you might get wrong as well. Like that's another thing. Like I got quite a few things wrong because I planted certain things in winter and they're not for winter and they died, and it's such a learning process, and you have that opportunity to do it wrong, and it's like no pressure. You just try and figure it out as you go, and and you're gonna have the results, and it's like it's not necessarily for like I'm not doing a business out of it, but it's really just about me doing it, and then my family's going to eat, and maybe if we have like a bit more, we could give it to a friend or a neighbor, or but just the process of tending to something, like you said, is it's a beautiful process.
It totally is.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that you have your garden. In Zimbabwe, I had my garden where it has a coriander, parsley, carrots, tomatoes, and that's exactly what we love to do. Whereas when there's excess, we just used to pack everything up and give it away.
Mm.
And that is the process of you feeding others. You're adding that nourishment to people. So perfect.
Yeah. Alrighty. What have I not asked you? I'm trying to remember some other questions. Oh yeah. There was one on languages. So obviously you've lived in different places, and I'd assume that you speak more than one language. Am I right to assume
I,
that?
you are right. One of the languages is struggling at the moment. It's my current struggle, which is Norwegian.
Mm-hmm.
So I have been going to language classes. I'll be in language classes for 1 year. But it's so far so good. I say it's a struggle, but I think that there's just that resistance. But it's coming along okay. My husband and I were laughing the other day because I got a word wrong, and it's just a process. And there's definitely, yes, it's Shona, it is English and Norwegian. I did French literature for my A levels, and my grandfather and my grandparents spoke French fluently.
And do you find that you have a different personality for each language that you speak, or do you just see yourself as just Tendai throughout?
Hmm. There is, I am finding this now in that when I speak Norwegian, it's definitely a newer language and a different personality because I'm not able to express myself fully. So I find myself being a lot more timid in situations. I find myself sinking back when people are speaking around and only talking when it's my chance. And then, but whenever it's my chance, I'm like, I'm going to kill them with these new sentences that I learned today. But yes, there is a different personality for each language, but it is more in the expression of who Tendai is. And because each language comes with a whole new culture as well. I mean, when it's speaking Norwegian, there's so many different colloquial terms. There's so many things that are not present as to when you're speaking Shona in Zimbabwe. So it's definitely different.
Yeah.
And you, what languages do you speak?
So I speak Ndebele, English. I speak Shona. Um, what am I forgetting? Zulu. It's pretty much like Isindebele, but I mean, I did isiZulu in school as well. So yeah. And I speak German. Yeah.
Oh,
I speak German, and
beautiful.
I'm learning Swahili now. So it's like 5.5.
How
Yeah.
has that changed your mindset or your brain? Because there is research on that. Whenever you learn a new language, you are creating new neural pathways.
Hmm.
And it just does, it exercises your brain because you're working on the neuroplasticity of it. So
Yeah.
have you found that it has helped with your memory and your focus as well?
I've never really thought much about that, so I'm not very sure. Um, but I'd say that I I find it much which with every new language that I learn, I find it easier to learn another language. So I
Mm.
don't know if that's to do with the brain and neuroplasticity, but I
Mm-hmm.
do find that the more languages I learn, the easier it becomes to pick up other languages. But what I
Mm-hmm.
have though, it's like a very weird, sometimes a shift. Like I could be speaking one language and suddenly like I'm saying another word in another language, and I have to think, oh, no, this person doesn't understand, and
Yeah.
I get confused sometimes. Like when I'm trying to express myself, especially when I'm speaking a language that is not necessarily my mother tongue. So not if it's not English or Ndebele, and I'm trying to speak any of the other languages, I tend to like end up adding other words from another language, and it gets confusing for me because I'm like, oh, okay. I'm trying to think of like a
Yes.
Swahili word, and then like the German phrase is coming to my head, and I'm wondering what's
Mm-hmm.
going on, and like people just look at me like, what are you saying?
Yeah.
So
I
I
did
did get
that today.
confused.
I was writing in Norwegian and I just could not just like pick up on something else I was supposed to
Mhm.
say. Ended up finishing the sentence in Shona. And I was like, well, hope he gets it.
Yeah. No, it's very interesting, like the whole language thing, and I think like what you said also about the culture is just realizing how like the different expressions are and how it brings out the culture. Like I would say for German, I think German doesn't have like baby language. It's
Mm,
like one of those languages that's it's just straight to the point. And so you find like a 3-year-old or 4-year-old who's just learning to talk and they're speaking
yes.
just as an adult would. You know what I mean? As
Mm-hmm.
like and for
Mm-hmm.
us it's very different because you find like we have like baby words, in our mother tongues where there's like a dialect that's for the younger people, and then as you
Mm-hmm.
grow older you get more mature in your language and then you change the way that you speak. But German does not have, I feel like it really doesn't have that thing. And what I've also seen with Germans, the way that they operate, they unlike how it is like in the African context or the Zimbabwean context where you have like a wide gap between um, an adult and a child, and it's like that respect thing that sometimes is kind of like fear, and it's there's like a very
Yes.
huge difference between you and the older person. I think that the
Yes.
Germans don't have that as deeply
Yes.
as we do. And you can almost trace it into how they speak and how they interact and how their language is, the way it's structured. So I think it's very interesting to find that, link between the language and the culture and how the people interact and conduct, their relationships.
Mhm. And it's very
Yeah.
true. It's the same in Norwegian. There isn't that differentiation between when you're speaking to an adult and even in the mannerisms that come out and the way that
Mm,
you are even saying thank you.
mm,
There isn't in the way that you present yourself. It's almost very direct. It is that you are speaking on the same wavelength as you. And it will even shows when the development of a child, you're not seeing a teenager, you're seeing somebody that is ready to leave the house at this age. You're seeing that children have a lot more independence, and you're
mm,
seeing that children have a lot more understanding of the only word that's actually coming here is independence, that they know that they are not only attached to their families.
mm,
It is that when you come out, you're a sovereign being and that you have sovereignty inside your life
mm,
and independence over your life.
mm,
Whereas in Zimbabwe, there is more of an attachment towards your community, to your elders, to your ancestors, how you honor people that are older than you.
mm. Yeah, that's true. And I was just reading through some of my old notes because I lived in Germany for a year, and I had like a monthly report that I had to do. I was an exchange student, and I found my first report, and they had like specific questions that you had to answer. And it was one thing about, what you find different about Germany compared to Zimbabwe. And in that note, I'd written that I found it interesting that we were in high school and we had to do a project about something about minimalism. and it was like project week. And so myself and other students in my class did the project by ourselves, and we went and we lived in a monastery. And I think the oldest person was probably 17, and everyone else was probably like 15, 16, or 17, thereabout. And I was writing in that reflection, in that report, where I was saying that I find it very interesting how, they are trusted to do it. And that would never happen in a Zimbabwean school. Like, you'd need to have like a teacher. They're probably going to separate the guys and the girls, and they're going to, there's so much authority, I'd say. And it was so different for me to say, okay, here I am. I'm also just 17. Why are they just letting us go, away like that and doing our own thing and trusting that we're going to be well and trusting that we're not going to do anything too crazy? And no, nothing crazy happened. So I found that, I still think about it, and I think it was very, very interesting.
And dare I say, it actually shows within the economies as well, because that's the same way that Norwegians are, where it is such a trust system. It's trusted that you're going to pay your taxes. It's trusted that you are not going to, that you have the autonomy to do the right thing. And hence why they have a welfare fund that is, Norway is the vanguard of the world, because there is that trust that is embedded within the culture, within the citizens.
Wow. It's part of the reference we give our adults. Understanding that, yeah.
Say more, my love. So it's part of the reference we give our adults. Oh, part of the respect we give our adults.
Okay. Maybe, yeah. Right. So I think we're gonna wrap up our conversation soon. I don't know how long we've talked.
I know, it was such a girl chat. I loved it so much.
Yeah, me too. I was hoping that it would be 30 minutes, but I doubt that it's been way over 30 minutes. And thank you so much for taking time off. And I know yesterday you had a class, and I was a bit sad, not being able to do it
I'm so
yesterday.
sorry.
But
I'm
it's
so
okay.
sorry.
I think like when I did a live at the time that we were supposed to, and I spoke to the people who joined, and what I thought, like my reflection from what happened not being able to do it yesterday, was that we have one more day to gain like 24 hours worth of wisdom, and I think that's going to make a difference.
Yes,
it's
amen.
always
Amen.
going to make a difference. So yeah, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much, and thank you for everyone for listening and that has stuck through. Thank you so much, Auntie Babs. Thank you so much, everyone. And it's so true. We do need to trust our youth more, and we do need to empower them more, because when you add that trust, then you're also adding responsibility and accountability. We're going to create human beings that feel that respect and autonomy. When you feel like you can be trusted, then you can shine beyond.
Absolutely. Right.
All right. Thank you so much, my babes.
Thank you. Thank you.